You are listening to Radio Long Island City, recorded at our studios near Hell Gate, 9 kilometers north of the Harbor Hill Moraine. And now, the Observatory. The Observatory, Thursday the 4th of December, 2025. It is 73 days after the fall equinox. It is 17 days before the winter solstice. By the French Republican calendar, it is the 14th day of Frimaire, the day of the sapin, the fir tree. The sun rises today at 7:04 a.m. Solar noon takes place today at 11:46 a.m. The sun sets today at 4:28 p.m. Civil twilight ends at 4:59 p.m. and nautical twilight ends at 5:33 p.m. The length of daytime today is 1 minute, 7 seconds shorter than yesterday. The full moon arrives today at 6:14 p.m. According to the Old Farmer's Almanac, this is the full cold moon. The moon also reaches its monthly perigee today at 6:06 a.m. The third quarter will arrive on Thursday, the 11th of December. These are the predicted tides today for Horn's Hook. In the wee hours, low tide, 2:40 a.m., minus 6 centimeters. In the morning, high tide, 9:09 a.m., 1 meter 92. In the afternoon, low tide, 3:29 p.m., minus 18 centimeters. At night, high tide, 9:43 p.m., 1 meter 49. In our shared realm of plants and animals, among the waterways in our corner of the world, the Bronx River stands out as a relative success story in ecological restoration. Running through Westchester and bisecting the Bronx, it became severely degraded by industrial pollution and sewage beginning in the 19th century. Reclamation efforts started early, as parklands began to be built along its length in the past century. But in recent decades, the pace of its restoration has picked up. The Bronx River Alliance and other groups have cleaned up the river. Beavers have reappeared, and stocks of fish have been regularly released to create viable, self-reproducing populations. It is clean enough to canoe and fish. It is the only freshwater river in New York City. Commemorations. On this day in 1783, just a week after the British evacuation of the city, George Washington bade farewell to his officers at a banquet at Fraunces Tavern. On this day in 1954, the first Burger King opened in Miami, Florida. At the time, it was called Insta Burger King. Annals of Free Speech. On this day in 1964, the police arrested more than 800 students at the University of California, Berkeley. The regents of the university had forbidden protests on campus, and in October there had been an incident on campus that had inspired students to organize a free speech movement. On December 2nd, the activist students occupied the administration offices at Sproul Hall and organized a sit-in. Freedom classes were held by teaching assistants on one floor. Joan Baez came to serenade the occupying students. On December 4th, in the middle of the night, Alameda County Deputy District Attorney Edwin Meese III telephoned Governor Edmund Brown Sr. and asked permission to intervene. Arrests began around 3 a.m. after the police had surrounded the building. The arrests did not end the free speech movement. They galvanized it. Ed Meese, the DA who ordered the arrests, would later serve as President Reagan's Attorney General. Companies we miss. On this day in 1991, Pan American World Airways ceased operations. It had been the greatest pioneer in civil aviation, but had faltered after airlines were deregulated, and it had failed to build a domestic network to feed its overseas routes. Because it was such a symbol of the United States, it was singled out in the Lockerbie bombing that downed one of its premier 747s over Scotland. It never recovered. Today we remember Crazy Horse, born this day in 1840. The Oglala Sioux chief was a great leader of his people in their resistance to losing their lands and being consigned to reservations. He was part of the Battle of Little Bighorn, where Sioux warriors defeated the United States Army. The historian Ian Fraser wrote of him, "His dislike of the oncoming civilization was prophetic. Unlike many people all over the world, when he met white men, he was not diminished by the encounter." Today we also remember John Giorno, born this day in 1936. The poet and performance artist was prominent in New York City through the 1960s and 70s. He appeared in Andy Warhol's experimental film Sleep, in which he was filmed asleep for more than 5 hours. Interested in multimedia poetry, he created Dial-A-Poem, allowing people to phone a number and hear a poet reciting a poem. The project has been revived. You can call 917-994-8949 to hear recordings from the original Dial-A-Poem. That is 917-994-8949. And that is the Observatory, Thursday, the 4th of December, 2025.